All right, this is part three of a series, and I didn't mean to stagger the content, but the video was cutting out. But what I was saying is that I had when I a lot of the greatest experiences I've have been doing things that would confound my thought process and what would seem in my best interest. To do something that would seem different than my best interest, but for a greater interest, would put me somewhere that I wouldn't be anticipated by other people or by life. But it worked out sometimes as a little bit of an advantage or just a different take on things. You can't, according to Osho, you can't actually say what's an advantage and a disadvantage, because either can exactly play into and sway the other direction. But when I became a big bus driver, I had just, to make a long story short, I was in an area that I would never otherwise be, and I recognized recruitment material. That particular base that I chose to go to, I could have ostensibly went to any other number of bases. There's a lot of them where I'm at, but that particular one, they had a good training program, and I got excellent training there. Then as soon as I landed that I completed that training and won that license, there was actually a hike in the pay grade in the industry for drivers, like coming after the pandemic, like competition between different driving venues and modes. But then school bus particular, there was a hike, like a $3-4 hike at least in that line of work. So it was well paying at that time, and it worked out. But so I say that sometimes, just all I'm saying is that doing things counterintuitive can be to an advantage sometimes if you're doing it for a constructive purpose. So I'm making this video. I had a lot of ideas, but I'm making it as the battery's low to challenge myself, is what I was saying with that. But I'm making this from the Twin Cities. That refers to St. Paul and Minneapolis in Minnesota, combined on either side of a river, Minneapolis being the west side of the Mississippi and St. Paul being the east side of the Mississippi. St. Paul being named after the figure Paul of the Bible, who had been Saul originally. I believe he was a Jewish man who persecuted Christians, but then he was won over by the lifestyle and the inspiration of the person named Jesus Christ, and his name went from Saul to Paul, and he became an apostle of Jesus Christ. I actually don't know the technical definition and meaning of an apostle, but I think it's like a higher level of disciple. I've met living people now that have impacted my life that had their name upgraded to an apostle, their title. But I don't know that titles really feature into or are part of really what the spirit of the man Jesus Christ is about. One thing about that, this is a little bit of an aside, but I think that my take on the figure Jesus Christ is that Jesus Christ, that what is referred to and leaned into the person Jesus Christ, that's before we had like photographic evidence and some of the things that would really corroborate that story that we would have now. The type of person that he sounds to be, there have been, sometimes you hear like, so you hear the story, but then you also hear like so you have the newspapers and then you have the streets. What the streets say about Jesus Christ is that some people would say that there's a portion in the Bible that's not, that there may be a little bit of an ambiguity or a part of the story that's not well articulated, where he didn't appear for a while, somewhere between his late childhood, adolescence, and then a lot of his adulthood. He wasn't represented. I think his story wasn't represented, or it wasn't completely fleshed out. And also there's references to him being influenced by India, inculcated in some of the ideas, some of his standpoint, some of the approach of the figure Jesus Christ is reminiscent of some of the ideas of India, that would be related to similar to like Jainism, or but just what I would say generally as sadhana, that I've studied from Arthur Avalon, which is the quest to undergo self-culture, that is to develop your propensities and your likeness of what has inspired you and is still you. But you have to go through discipline to exercise, to bring out, like I sometimes they say, like, if you start to work out, you'll discover that you had muscles that you never knew you actually had that muscle. You might not have actually completely had that muscle or that ability until you began to exercise like that. But the same is true of anything that we do creatively, personally, and for lack of a better word, spiritually. Spiritually, in the strictest sense, would actually refer to managing your breath, according to Tashrik Bey, and therefore your mind, because your mind follows your breath. Your breath is also influenced by your thoughts, but your thoughts are influenced by your breath. It's like a feedback, and you probably can't really say which is first. But maybe the inspiration is first, second, and third place. But and it's interesting that also inspiration that also can refer to breathing, but also to the impetus and the incentive. Inspiration can refer to incentive, but also breathing. That's significant. But some of these faith walks, like of India, like sadhana, any human being that undergoes sadhana can amount to any amount of a human being, which is also any amount of what and who we are described by the Bible itself to be in the likeness of God, not next to as the likeness of God, but in the likeness of God. That is still the likeness of God at our best. But we also have the ability to choose with that, because it's actually not power if you can't. Some people say it's not power if you can't abuse it, but a better way to say that it's not power if it doesn't involve choosing, because it's not really you. You actually you didn't lose for it. And you also didn't truly work for something if there wasn't something of choice in there. Some of exertion is actually a form of choice. That's what can be so brutal about something like slavery, or compulsive exercise, compulsive training or conscription, is because in the strictest sense, violence, in the strictest sense that I can enunciate what violence is. I've experienced violence in my life, more so socially and interpersonally, but also outright physical violence, and also the threat thereof, and the imminent potential for that, both communicated but also acted upon. But in the strictest sense, what violence is to the deeper sense. What would be more violent than someone doing something to you would be someone forcing you to do something to you, even if that's to get you to move an inch. Move your ass right now. Move your ass over there. That's violent.